Welcome to the Jim Baker Show, coming to you from the village of Morningside, snuggled in the beautiful Ozark Mountains. Today, Jim's special guest, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam. I'm Kevin Shorey and the Morningside Band and Singers. And now, direct from Grace Street at Morningside, here are your hosts, Jim and Lori Baker.
Welcome to Grace Street.
Hi
Back
there.
with us today, Thomas Horn and Chris Putnam, the authors of On the Path of the Immortals.
We went up to the top of Mount Graham trying to investigate why the Vatican has astronomers up there studying deep space and why they had this battle. They fought in federal court against the Apache Nation to get the right to build on the top of that mountain. The Apache wanted us to know that that mountain is holy. It's one of the 4 holiest mountains in the world, and it is because it is a portal. It is a gateway. It's a location such as the Bible describes in several places where it mentions, like Jacob's ladder.
Yes.
Jacob sees angels ascending and descending, and after that vision, it scares him so much that he gets out, he takes anointing oil, and he anoints the whole place. And people say that Jacob said, "This is the house of God." But read it, that's not what he says. He says, "There is a gate here to the house of God." Same thing with the Tower of Babel that we have talked about once before. The actual root words around that was, it's a gate, it's a doorway, it's CERN of the Old Testament. It's angelic science trying to figure out how to break through into our dimension to literally create hell on earth. That's what it is. Keep in mind, we're using the term portal. It kind of sounds like Star Trek or something, right?
Yeah.
That's why I say portal, doorway, gateway. We're just trying to provide an image for the mind to understand that there are strategic places on the earth, that is biblical, that the Bible provides numerous equations about that, and so do other ancient extra biblical books like the book of Enoch, which talks about the angels coming through a portal on the Mount of Hermon, and they go down to the Valley of the Plain. They're the ones that started this whole business with the giants back there, right? Isaiah 13, he has a prophecy in which he says that at the end of time, when the complete destruction of Babylon occurs and these wars that are coming up with Islam and all that, that a commander, a ruler, I don't know who this ruler is it an angel, is it God? He just says, "Open the gates, ye ruler, I give command, and I bring them. Giants are coming to fulfill my wrath." And then it goes on to describe, before the end of that chapter, other like monstrosities, like satyrs, half-goat, human-like beings, all these things coming up out of the earth that are going to be part of this great tribulation period, part of this great judgment. Now, here's why I brought up the book of Enoch. Enoch gives the same prophecy. Enoch chapter 10, Enoch chapter 15. Read those chapters. He too says they're bound under the surface of the earth. In fact, I'll read it to you. He says, "The spirits of the giants shall be concealed, and shall not rise up against the Son of Men and against women until they come forth during the days of slaughter and destruction."
Zach, you taped a piece in my office
I did.
last week,
Yes.
and I'm going to run it just right now.
Great. Awesome.
And you were sitting down in my office musing
Yes.
about what's going on.
That's right.
So let's roll this, and I think you'll find it interesting.
What if I told you there was an ancient mystery, an ancient story once again being replayed in modern times? We are all familiar with the story of the Tower of Babel, a story of a pagan world coming together as a single unit, an entire society trying to achieve equality with God. And what was their method? To literally build a tower that would ascend into heaven, that would ascend into the realm of celestial beings. The craziest thought is that the very thing they were trying to do would have been achieved if God hadn't intervened. And good thing he did. God destroyed the tower and cast confusion into the people. What a crazy thing to say, that they would have achieved their goal. But I didn't say it. God did. In Genesis chapter 11, it says this, "Then they said, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the earth.' But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. And the Lord said, 'If as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so they will not understand each other. The Lord, Jehovah, the God of the universe, said nothing would be impossible for them.'" This indicates that the very thing they had set out to do, to build a tower into heaven, would have been achieved. How? This seems impossible. How would a people group build a tower that would reach to the outer realms of the universe, thousands of light years away, into a place that we call heaven? This is ridiculous and impossible. Therefore, I would suggest another means of extending their tower into heaven. You see, many Christian intellects with doctorate degrees in theology and even molecular and particle physics would suggest that there are gateways, or for you sci-fi junkies, portals, just beyond the naked eye, placed at strategic locations around the world in which the celestial realm would enter and leave from. Take another portion of Scripture, for example. In Genesis 28, Jacob was given a vision in which we today refer to as Jacob's ladder. In this vision, he saw a stairway or ladder resting on earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac." How was this possible? How was Jacob able to see heaven and earth and a stairway extending to both at the same moment? Let me give you another example. Whenever you're in a time of need and you pray, "Lord, send down your angels, let them protect me," where's the angel or the angels coming from? From the outer edges of the universe, or wherever the spirit realm lies? If he was traveling at the speed of light, it would literally take that angel millions of years to get to you. You're long gone. Once again, what a ridiculous thought. Wouldn't it make more sense if these spirit beings were simply able to pass through some sort of dimensional barrier, through a gateway, to immediately be able to assist you? Is that what Jacob was seeing? Was he seeing one of the gateways into heaven in which angels were ascending and descending? The same type of gateway the pagans in the story of the Tower of Babel were trying to get to? It's interesting to note what Jacob said after his encounter there with the supernatural realm. "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I wasn't even aware of it." But he was also afraid and said, "What an awesome place this is. It is none other than the house of God, the very gateway to heaven." What does all this have to do with today? The here and the now. Someone once said, "History has a funny way of repeating itself." Another man once said, "The one thing we can learn from history is that we don't learn from history." And from studying history, you will quickly see that God, He works in cycles. He works in patterns. If you want to get on what God is doing, then you've got to find out how He operates. And Hebrew tells us that Jesus, God, He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So, what if I told you again, today, the ancient story of the Tower of Babel is being repeated? Isn't it interesting that people from all around the world have once again come together to build the largest machine that man has ever constructed? They say it's for the purpose of discovering the God particle, this mystery particle that essentially holds the entire universe together, and if found would explain our very existence. I think it's pretty interesting that I have made the discovery of a lifetime. I have figured out what the God particle is. I have figured out what holds the entire universe together. And it talks about it in Colossians chapter 1, verse 17. He, Jesus, is before all things, and in him all things hold together. This insane machine, it's called CERN, the Large Hadron Collider. The Tower of Babel. The whole world came together to work on it. Over 100 nationalities have come together to work at CERN, the Large Hadron Collider. Thousands upon thousands of people, even mortal enemies of each other. Physicists from India and Pakistan are working together, from Russia and Georgia, working together. Even physicists from Iran and Israel are working together. The people at the Tower of Babel's goal was to reach a portal or a gateway into the sky, into another dimension where God dwells. Sergio Bertolucci, director for research and scientific computing at CERN, said this: the Large Hadron Collider could open a doorway to an extra dimension, and out of this door might come something, or we might send something through it. The new tower, the largest machine that man has ever created, is again trying to reach into other dimensions. Aurélien Barraud, a French particle physicist at CERN, said this: the idea of multiple universes is more than a fantastic invention and deserves to be taken seriously. The Daily Mail recently had an article that read, will the Large Hadron Collider find a parallel universe? Well, we already know that this world is but a shadow of a larger reality. The article continues by saying, Particle Smasher could become a gateway to alternate realities, say scientists. There's that word, gateway, once again. Is all this a mere coincidence? Are the startling parallels between these two stories just a matter of chance? Or are the powers of the demonic realm actively at work right now? And if this is more than just a coincidence, and history does decide to repeat itself, let's not forget how it ended for the people at the Tower of Babel, who were also trying to play God. Judgment came. Judgment came from the true and living God, the just and good God, the God that holds all things together, the God of the Bible. Judgment came and cast confusion into the people of all the earth. But what do I know? I challenge you to be like the Bereans that are spoken about in the Bible in the book of Acts chapter 17. For they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. And as a result, many of them believed.
Wow. Thank you, Zach.
Amazing.
Zach,
Fabulous.
This will be a piece on social media. This young man graduated from our college. He's been with me 5 years in school. He's out of school now. He's our assistant on the show. One of the greatest moments of my life, Zach, is to have you with me. Tom Horn is here near us and lives down the road a piece, as they say in the South. And we're thrilled to have you with us.
We
and,
are.
And Chris, who is a brilliant mind. I'm just honored that you would come and share with us. In your book, you suggest, and we just saw on the screen where Zach talked about the Tower of Babel. You know, I said earlier that I feel like if we could go to heaven by walking up ladders and building buildings and all, you know, if you think about it, that story would be almost an impossible fairy tale that man could build.
Yeah.
But when you teach it and you say you believe the Tower of Babel, that these people were looking for a portal, I shouldn't use portal, all things, something about spaceships or space travel, a gate, an entrance,
Right.
a way to heaven, a way to the world of God.
Right.
Is that right? Do you really believe that?
Yeah, well, it takes only a literal interpretation of what they said. When they talked about building a tower, Zach, by the way, that was a fabulous production just then.
I love it.
But
Get the book.
what did they say? They said, we'll build a tower whose top will reach into, and the Hebrew word there is shamayim, the dwelling place of God, the dwelling place of the watcher angels. Now, that's a big boast to make, except that it's God who looks down and says they will accomplish what they have imagined to do. So there was something going on here that was much more than just a tower. It was strategically located. Now, when you talk about portals, see, portals, gateways, stargates, we've only talked about these kind of in a metaphysical sense of a gate or a door, but sometimes people become the portal. And that was what happened with the Watchers. They wanted a methodology. They wanted a way of leaving their fixed estate. That's what Peter says. That's what Jude says. Those angels which kept not their fixed habitation, their estate. They wanted to enter into our reality. They had to come up with a way of doing that because they didn't want to be like demons. They didn't want to just possess somebody in whom the spirit of man still dwelt. They wanted incarnation. This was an affront to God, and they figured out how to do it. Now, these angels couldn't speak into existence like God can, but they participated in creation. They knew at least as much about genetics as our scientists do today. And what does all of the ancient records say? They came down, they took the genetics of women, the genetics of animals, and they created a unique biological entity into which a man's spirit wouldn't be because it wasn't a man. The character of an animal wouldn't go into it because it wasn't a cow. It was something entirely outside of the divine order, and they extended themselves. In fact, there's some versions of the ancient Bible that says they saw men and beasts as fit extensions, a fit methodology. So when you think of it that way, the people became the portal. The Nephilim became the gateway, the doorway for them to enter into our three-dimensional reality. Now ask yourself what's happening in science around the world today, in transhumanism, in laboratories around the world. Here in the United States of America, here in Missouri, we are creating animals with human DNA inside them at the University of Missouri. Yes, we are. Humanized pigs for xenotransplantation experiments. This is happening all across the world. It's the Academy of Medical Sciences published a booklet, 150-page booklet. If somebody emails me, I'll send it to them. 150-page in which they call them animals containing human material, human-animal chimeras, and they assert that they are being created by the thousands in laboratories around the world, and some of them, they say, reaching human cognition. Animals that begin questioning, who am I? Where did I come from? Is there a God? And they even allege that they've created humans, that have the ability to crossbreed with natural humans. If this isn't the days of Noah, if this isn't a repeat of the sin of the Watchers, I don't know what is. But once again, you said, you opened the show yesterday saying, how many churches would know if I said, what about CERN? What do you know about CERN, right? How many people know that in thousands of laboratories around the world, we are creating human-animal chimeras? They're supposed to be destroyed at the embryonic level, but research out of Great Britain from their equivalent of the FDA says they're not all being destroyed. There's literal islands of Dr. Moreau. These
really are.
These would be like a new form of Nephilim. What is it that's in them? If they're not animal, if they're not human, what is it that's in them? What is the spirit? Now, that's the origination to the Tower of Babel. Because, go back, Genesis 10, Nimrod began to be a giant. Nimrod began going through a transformation. In fact, the Hebrew there is halal, which means something profane started happening in his genetics. He started changing, like some kind of weird virus or something going through him, right? And then, if he becomes the offspring of the Nephilim, perhaps he took on angelic properties. Like fallen angels, he could see where to go. Now he knew where the entry point to Shamayim was, so he went specifically there to build a tower with angelic technology so he could travel into the presence of God. There is a huge amount of ancient text that seem to make very powerful scientific statements, like Jasher 4:18. says, after the angels revealed the secrets of heaven to men, it says, then men began to blend species of one kind with another. We're talking about advanced biotechnology. And so I think personally that all of these ancient records from Egypt to Samaria, where you see these half human, half animal, I think that's a mute testimony of something that happened in the world at one time, and it basically was put up like a record.
Yeah, the sons of God came down to earth. Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Had relationship with earthly women and created this species. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what the Bible says, yeah.
That's Genesis 6.
But that's in the Bible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we don't preach on it Sunday morning, so
Not too often.
How do you work that into a Sunday morning sermon?
And they don't preach Revelation anymore, which is a crime. It's satanic, because the book of Revelation is the only one that offers us a promise and blessing if you will read it and understand it, right?
And that's where we are. We're in those days.
So what spirit would it be that would not want us to understand that?
What Tom was just talking about, I mean, as far as, in addition to being a writer, I work as a consultant for a group called Cocoon Resources, and we're a Christian biotechnology investment group that try to vet these technologies so that, you know, Christians aren't putting their money into things that they don't want to. There's an island called St. Kitts. I think it's the U.S. Virgin Islands, right down here off the, in the coast, where there aren't any laws. There's a scientist down there injecting human neural stem cells from human brain tissue into monkeys' brains. Okay. Now this is done, as medical science, is maybe to find a cure for Alzheimer's or something like that, to regenerate brains. But we also have a whole group of monkeys with half human brains down there now.
Yeah. Well, and plus, if anybody's been watching the news, they see the scientists out there right now talking about CRISPR, this new technology that can rapidly alter the human genetic code, and how they're going to create designer babies. And the science community itself is calling for a moratorium on the science. Here's the problem with calling for a moratorium on the science is any rogue nation that wants to develop this and get ahead of you is going to. So there are things that are going on behind the scenes. But what's that got to do with the Tower of Babel? And I mentioned Nimrod. But Nimrod was a form of the Antichrist. He was a Nephilim. He was a mighty hunter before God. He was a rebel. He was a form of the Antichrist. Now, I've often wondered if the Antichrist isn't going to have something strange about his genetics. And let me give you a scenario here that I think is important. You mentioned a moment ago the beasts of the field. And you said when you were in prison, I'm glad you brought it up because you're the only other person I've ever heard that understood this. The Greek word there is therion. And the reason it's translated beasts is because it essentially means tiny beasts, like microscopic sized beasts. And it fits perfectly with your scenario that we're talking here about a virus. We're talking about a plague, a pandemic that maybe will come over from the animals, but it's therion. It's microscopic, dangerous, destructive. Maybe that's the fourth rider, right? Maybe it's a weaponized version of Ebola or something like that. But very quickly, did you ever see the movie I Am Legend with Will Smith? All right. So a pandemic, I like to use visuals that people understand. A pandemic breaks out on the earth, right? Wipes out almost all life on earth. But there is one guy, for reasons that are unknown, his blood is naturally immune to the pandemic. And so he sets himself up inside of a house, and he's in there working. He's trying to capture these zombie-like beings and trying to create a cure, right, for this pandemic. Well, by the end of the movie, he does, and you find out that's why he's a legend. He's the only guy on earth whose blood is naturally immune. Now, let's take that back to the Antichrist for a moment. We know that the Antichrist is the antithesis of Jesus, right? Jesus was the Son of God. He is the son of perdition, the son of the devil. Jesus worked miracles. He works miracles. Jesus rose from the dead. He receives a deadly head wound, and all the world marvels, right? And people have created whole lists of how he is the antithetical Christ, right? Well, imagine this. Jesus also said that unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood and partake in communion, you will have no part in me. Wouldn't it be just like the Antichrist to create a situation where a pandemic is sweeping the world. Hundreds of thousands of people are dying, and there's only one guy on earth whose blood is naturally immune to this disease, and it turns out to be the Antichrist, the mark of the beast. The only way you can be cured from this disease is you have to literally partake in the form of immunization with the blood and flesh of the Antichrist. It would be a satanic communion.
Wow.
But that stems from Therion. So, brother, you are hitting the nail on the head in terms of prophecy.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Tom Horn and Chris Putnam after this special message. We all know we need water to live, but we don't drink enough water to maintain proper health, and we certainly don't drink enough water to maintain proper pH balance.
Your body is approximately 70% water. You basically are what you drink.
Dr. William Kelly, author of Cancer Cure, he says, and I quote him, "Alkaline water has become the most important advancement in health care since Sir Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin."
Alkaline water will give you hydration, energize you, help neutralize free radicals, and detoxify your body. This is why you need the brand new pH2O Pure Filter bottle from Seychelles. This bottle is the first of its kind to not only filter out contaminants, but also raise the pH of your drinking water to an alkaline level. This filter removes aesthetics such as taste, odors, and chlorine, chemicals like volatile organic compounds, detergents, and pesticides, dissolved solids like aluminum, arsenic, and lead, radiological contaminants like radon-222, cesium-134, and 137, and it will alter the pH of your water up to 9.5. You can receive the brand new pH2O Pure Filtration bottle for a donation of $100 or more to the ministry. You can receive 2 bottles for a donation of just $200 or more to the ministry, and you'll receive a 3rd pH2O filtration bottle as a special bonus.
Just to introduce the book, we're giving it to those who get the pH bottles. The only pH bottle of this kind, I don't know of any in the world, but if you order the bottle, you get a free book. If you order 2 bottles, you get a 3rd bottle free, and you get a free book, okay? This book, if you want to know the other side, I read this book last night, and it is amazing.
I have a feeling this might be the biggest book we've ever put out.
Oh, I hope so.
It's already ranked at #1 a month before it would even be in print.
I believe in a supernatural God.
Yeah.
And if you're believing in a rapture, that is as supernatural as it gets.
Mm-hmm. By the way, the world is probably getting ready to believe again, because if the stuff that we've written about in here happens, if those gates open as they're prophesied to do in the Bible,
What?
and the things that it says are going to come up out of the earth, and it says men's hearts are going to fail them for fear for seeing those things that are coming upon the earth. So the church may not believe in the supernatural anymore, but they're going to.
I think what they're doing is proving our worldview, whether they accept it or not.
But if you order the bottle, you get a free book. If you order 2 bottles, you get a 3rd bottle free, and you get a free book, okay?
Drink high pH water anywhere, anytime with the new pH2O filtration bottle. Call 1-888-988-1588 or write to Jim Baker at P.O. Box 7330, Branson, Missouri 65615. You can also donate online at jimbakershow.com. Thank you for your continued support that helps keep us broadcasting around the world.
Now, over the Tower of Babel, when we were researching the Tower of Babel, one thing that I discovered that I had never heard before was that King Nebuchadnezzar, from the book of Daniel that we're all familiar with, he actually tried to rebuild it. And that we have a stele, which is just a big piece of stone where they carved, there's a picture of it, a translation in our book, where Nebuchadnezzar talks about his efforts to rebuild the Tower of Babel. Now, something happened that stopped him. And if you remember, God made him go crazy for
Right.
quite a while. I think he was about to get it done again, just like Nimrod. And it's even more interesting. When it talks about Nebuchadnezzar's sentence, when he's turned into an animal, it says, by decree of the watchers. By decree of the watchers. Who are they?
Right.
They are the immortals that we're talking about.
The watchers.
The watchers.
One of the things God spoke to me when I was a younger person, he said, you have no idea how powerful man's brain is and how powerful our minds are. He said, actually, we would be dangerous if we knew. I think we are dangerous, and I think the Tower of Babel was dangerous because the Bible says they could accomplish anything. So what did God do? He separated their languages. What does this CERN do? Look at around this CERN. Look at this thing. What happened in relationship to build this modern day Tower of Babel? What did they have to do to bring the world together?
Yes.
What did they invent?
They had to create the World Wide Web.
So they could all talk to each other the same language, probably even translate into other languages automatically, because that's what the machinery does nowadays. Do you see this? I'm spellbound by what I've seen and what I've heard. And here man is trying to go to another level. They've actually said that, guys. Isn't that right? That they want to reach another dimension. If you don't think God is going to do something soon, you're mistaken. God has to. We've killed 55 million of our babies in the United States of America. We have pornography as a mainstay of life. Even mainstream television is literally what would have been X-rated 10, 20 years ago. And all this creation is still aimed at trying to create what God has done to bring us to another level. If CERN was to actually open up the gateway, what would it mean for us? Who can answer that?
Well, they can't even answer that.
Well, then you could.
I'll let him talk, but it might not be good. Bertolucci has said something could come through from
Right.
that dimension into our dimension. Exorcists will tell you that demons go where they are invited. And even if you're talking about like aliens or whatever, some of the brightest minds in the world are saying it might not be smart to be sending signals out into space saying, we're here, come have us for lunch, right?
Right.
One of the most difficult things I've tried to interpret that I don't think I have a handle on, and I've studied and studied and studied the Bible. But when the Bible talks about these creatures, I'll call them creatures, these beings that come up from the earth, they come out of pits. Do you preach on that in your church? Pastors, any pastors here? On Sunday morning? You don't preach on oh, you do. Ooh, you're an amazing preacher. But beings, these creatures coming out, this judgment, this hell. Is this what we're talking about? They have to be living in another. They're able to go into a hell. Many think hell is in the center of the earth because there's fire there. But they'd have to be supernatural to live. They'd have to have a supernatural body, just like Christ had a supernatural body, could walk through walls, but they'd have to have a supernatural body to live eternally in the pit of hell.
Well, the one way that CERN could facilitate opening up the portal to the abyss at the fifth trumpet you're talking about, right? We've been talking about things like wormholes. These are like ways that you travel long distances through space. The idea of a wormhole is, say, you have somewhere here and a location here. And they're so far apart, you could never get there. But a wormhole is a way you actually fold space-time, and then you're there. It's just like that. It folds it, okay? So that's how that works. Now, what does this have to do with this particle accelerator? You know, they're little teeny particles, right? Well, the only way they could conceive of making a wormhole that we could actually go through and travel is you'd have
Why
to
do they
start.
call it a wormhole? I'm sure everybody's out there saying,
Why
what
do
are
they
you
call
guys
it that?
talking
I
about?
think
No,
there's-
but they're saying, what are you talking about?
It's a way of traveling from point A to point B by folding
Through time,
space-time.
Through time,
Folding
through
space-time.
eternity, through
Right.
space and time.
Instead of traversing the distance, you actually just fold reality itself is what it
Well,
comes down to.
and the term worm comes from thinking of an apple. And if you had to travel around the surface of the apple, you have to
Right.
go from here up and around over here, but the worm goes right,
Right
through the middle.
Yeah.
So the wormhole gets you from point A to point B faster.
Faster.
Yeah.
Okay, and it also could open a portal to hell, perhaps, or something like that. Okay, but they can't conceive of a way you could make one big enough for humans to go through, or a spaceship, or anything like that, natural, by an artificial means. How could you manufacture such a thing? But the only way that they thought of is you have to start with something really small, and they could make one in something like this, and then expand it. So really, this technology, CERN, is one way of creating an artificial wormhole. It's the beginning of that process.
Is that like a black hole?
A black hole would be the entrance, and on the other side would be called a white hole.
So what man has found is the black hole in outer space, literally galaxies, universes out there, whatever there's out there, a black hole devours it. It's pretty scary.
From what we can tell, the gravity just crushes everything that gets near it. Anything that gets near it, it would just shred you to pieces. But another scientist discovered that if the black hole is spinning at a certain speed, the correct speed, the inertial forces will cancel that gravity, creating a traversable wormhole, which would be safe to go through. There's a new film out now called Interstellar, where they actually travel through such a wormhole. And the way you would make one of those, you would start with something really small and grow it.
Mm-hmm. You'd start it there, then it would grow. Some of the early scientists that are still probably afraid of this machine are afraid that you might start something that you then can't put the genie back in the bottle, and it could literally consume the earth. Now, we've read
do you
the
have
book.
any facts that these people are literally trying to create some of this, or that's one of the things they're looking for?
You can go to CERN's webpage and read the studies that they're already talking about. But again, some of the experiments...
Right now, while we're sitting here,
right now,
their biggest experiments are beginning.
These are the biggest, most powerful experiments ever conducted on the planet, ever. We've never tried to collide 600 million particles at just below the speed of light beneath the surface of the Earth, 600 million per second.
Now, you talk in your book about CERN possibly being the fifth trumpet.
Here's the thing. If you look at CERN, there's a lot of interesting things there. First of all, their logo is a stylized 666. If you look at the logo, it's 3 sixes wrapped into each other.
Did you know that, Zach?
I did, yes.
Dear Lord. I can't read everything, but...
Yeah. So, there's always been this question about when we see the plagues of the end time, the question of whether or not some of these are things we essentially have unleashed on ourselves by being rebellious against God. Mm-hmm. And so, if you ask me, do I think CERN is what's going to open the bottomless pit? I doubt it. What I think CERN represents is the spirit of the age. We have returned to the days of Nimrod. We are shaking our fist in his face of God. We're saying, I will be like the Most High. I will take control over creation. It's Luciferian. And at the same time, here you've got the rabbi standing in front of the United Nations saying, hello, how come nobody is saying anything about the decimation of Christians around the world? What is this strange, weird silence all about, right? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, is that this is another part of the spirit of the age.
Wow. I'm glad you mentioned the rabbi. Did anybody see the rabbi speaking to the United Nations? Mm-hmm. It's on our website. It's on the JimBakkerShow.com. I mean, his message was amazing. And it's like we have a few people standing out on the cliff by themselves, almost. And we don't need to be silently behind them. We need to be noisily behind them. It's time, I'm getting way off on this.
Yeah,
In
you're
your
right.
book, you talk about CERN could be the fifth trumpet. And then I written down, do you believe the sixth trumpet speaks of another doorway being opened?
Yeah. Well, absolutely it does. It's talking about the Euphrates River. But, I think the part in the book that you might have been referring to was the connection that I was making there was it's a little unnerving, not just to see Shiva being consecrated as the great God, or whatever the terminology is.
God of destruction.
The omnipresent embodiment of all virtues, the creator of the cosmic universe.
That's a false God sitting out in front of this machine, this billion-dollar plant, the biggest machine man ever made. And they don't put Jesus with his arms outstretched. They put a false God, a God that represents gods.
Yes.
Lots of gods.
Right.
It's the God of destruction, known as the Lord of the Dark. And it's just interesting to note that in the occult, another name for Satan is Shiva.
And
that's outside of CERN.
when CERN went online, a teenage girl in India took it so seriously she committed suicide the day they turned it on.
Right. But the other thing about this is that it is located in St. Puili. It's right there on the border, and in ancient Roman times, that was called the Apolliacum. That was the location of Apollo, and there was a temple there for the worship of Apollo. So why is that unnerving? Because Apollo is definitely related to the sounding of the fifth and sixth trumpets. When the angel comes down with a key to the bottomless pit, opens it up, and it says they have a king over them down there, which is Abaddon, which is called in the Greek tongue Apollyon, Apollo. And of course, that's the spirit that's going to come up and inhabit the Antichrist. So to build this machine that wants to open a door into another universe, right where the ancients said the Apolliacum was located, is just some kind of unnerving, right?
Wow.
Wow, that is. Yeah.
What does CERN mean? Does it have a translation, the name? Do you guys know? CERN? I know it was originally had initials.
Oh,
I used to know, I forget it.
But it used to have
yes.
initials.
That's right. CERN, it was a French acronym.
Right.
Now, a lot of people said, well, CERN doesn't really mean anything. And essentially, people thought that it didn't. Like I said, it was a French acronym. And they realized, this acronym is just kind of silly. So they actually ditched the acronym, and they kept the name CERN. So my question is, what does CERN mean? Could it have a meaning? Could it be connected to something else as well? Well, it's interesting that in the Wiccan faith that there are two main deities, and the main deity is called the horned god, or Herne the Hunter. And this horned god, if you look back to the conventional name given to it by the Celts, am I saying that right?
Yep.
The Celts, the name given to this deity is CERN, Eunice. And it's actually the god of the underworld.
Netflix is a fulfillment of prophecy from me that God had spoken to me, a word. And I'm not a prophet. God spoke to me probably 20 years ago that the television as we know it would no longer be. I had the privilege of helping pioneer Christian television with Pat Robertson. We started in a little building like a manger. I mean, it was a little rundown building in Portsmouth, Virginia. And we started this building. And we didn't know anything about television. Pat didn't own a television. Pat had never owned a television. Up until then, he said. And so God calls us guys together. Somehow we get together. And we're building the first Christian TV station in the world. And now God speaks to me a few years back that television as we know it is not going to be anymore. And that it is going to be a whole different delivery system in television sets as they're made in TV stations. TV stations probably won't. I better be careful that I'm saying this because I'm on this media. But don't believe me. Just look up what the people that know the science of broadcasting. It's antiquated already. It's through. We have more technology here than went to the moon originally. Right here in this thing. You all understand what's happening today?
It's amazing.
Netflix. How many have Netflix? We have Netflix at our house. Today, Netflix is the #1 network probably in America that I know of. About 70 million homes, bigger than bigger than DirecTV, bigger than Dish Network, but bigger and also than HBO. And
because it's on demand. You can watch what you want when you want to watch it. So that prophecy was really fulfilled.
And so now is the time for us to move to the next level, and that's why these students are here. And we need young people that would be sold out to broadcast. We can reach more people in one day than you kids can reach the rest of your life using the old-fashioned methods. And we're going to have to do a quick work according to the scriptures in the last days. We have to take the media. We can't keep letting the world have all the media, have all the technology.
Right.
And so it is time, and all of it has changed, and it's time for us to do what we can to use the good technology, to use
the technology for good, and to deliver the good news of the gospel of Jesus.
If you haven't ordered The Path of the Immortals, this is our last day to offer it. And what we're doing, if you order the pH water bottle, this is almost like a miracle. You just pour water in here from your faucet, and you drink from it, and it makes the pH up to 9.5. And you can give these to your grandchildren, your children, and your friends. But if you order
your pastor,
2 bottles, if you order 2 of these bottles for the pH bottles this week, you will get
a third bottle, and you'll receive the book.
2 bonuses. You get a third bottle as a gift, and the book On the Path of the Immortals.
Yeah.
As a free gift. So do that today. And remember, we do have some of the Septuagint Bibles.
Translated into English.
And for a gift of $30 for Lori's house.
That's incredible.
We want to give you this
amazing
Bible, the Bible that the disciples carried.
What they read.
Would read from.
Yes.
Not like this book, probably, but that's probably in scroll form, I suppose. Call 1-888-988-1588 right now. Put that number down. Post Office Box 7330, Branson, Missouri. You can write us a little letter, a little note, 65615, or you can
just go to the website, jimbakershow.com.
So do that right now, and we're just going to have what do we call this? A trailer, a movie trailer for your book, the book trailer. So let's take a look.
Now we're on our way to the petroglyphs. There are some strange images that are there.
Yeah. I saw it with the naked eye. Yeah. Did you see it? The orb. I saw an orb with the naked eye. What is that?
In 2012, they shocked the world when they predicted Pope Benedict's resignation 1 year in advance.
Breaking news, Pope Benedict XVI announces his resignation.
Yeah, it is the first time in centuries a pope has stepped down. And the very latest on the Pope's startling resignation yesterday, the first time in 600 years a pope has done this.
In 2013, they uncovered the mysteries of Mount Graham, the Lucifer device, and the Vatican's secret plan for the arrival of an alien savior. For the last 24 months, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam have been working behind the scenes on their most guarded project and greatest discovery yet, Mount Graham in Arizona is said to be a portal, and the Jesuits admit they are monitoring something there that is approaching the Earth. But as the Vatican knows and the authors just uncovered, this mountain is not the only gateway to another dimension. Now, in their new book, On the Path of the Immortals, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam set out with cameras and field investigators to document the most astonishing evidence of those behind the veil. Armed with inside intelligence from the native peoples, they unearth chilling evidence of what the Bible says about sacred locations and the giant beings that await their time from within.
They claimed that they could actually conjure light ships down, UFOs, aliens.
So what would have caused these ancient Pueblo Anastasi Indians to have departed this area with such great haste?
We don't know why they never finished completion of the Sun Temple.
Many of them escaped right through some of these mountains, some of these old Anasazi ruins.
Travel with internationally acclaimed investigative authors of Petrus Romanus and Exo Vaticana to learn the truth behind a secret so fantastic that it took 2 years and thousands of miles of research to document what has been kept hidden from the public by elitists and intellectuals who are planning mankind's assimilation under a coming savior.
Here's the six-toed giant our Indian guide told us about. And there's the fallen reptilian with the halo above his head that came through the portal.
One whom the prophet Daniel foresaw as an alien god. On the Path of the Immortals.
Wow. So this week we've introduced to you the brand new book On the Path of the Immortals. And it's so much that you need to get the book so you can read and know all of what they're teaching.
Yes.
Honestly, it's probably the most missed information, and the information you think about when you read it and you say, what are those giants?
Yeah.
What are those five-toed and five-fingered beasts? What is all these things? What are all these creatures? What are all these...
and what does it have to do with me, and how is it affecting our world now? I mean, that's what people want to know.
Yeah.
Right, Tom? Right,
Right.
Chris? I mean, people want to know, how is this affecting us? This will help you to understand.
So I want
and
to
give
thank you guys for
answers.
being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys.
so much. Appreciate it.
Amazing. Incredible.
Thomas
last few
Horn
days.
and Chris Putnam, authors of the brand new, just out, On the Path of the Immortals.
Yes.
Order your copy now. You can get a copy for a gift of $20 to help us stay on the air.
Yes.
Or you can just order the Seychelles pH, makes it pH water that is, all of our doctors have told us to use it.
Yes.
And so you get the book if you order any of these pH water products today.
That's right. It's
It's a free
exciting.
gift, actually. So call us right now, 1-888-988-1588, or write us at Post Office Box 7330, Branson, Missouri, 65615, or go to our website,
JimBakerShow.com.
We have to go. God loves you. He really does. Bye-bye for today.
Bye-bye. We love you.
We all know we need water to live, but we don't drink enough water to maintain proper health, and we certainly don't drink enough water to maintain proper pH balance.
Your body is approximately 70% water. You basically are what you drink.
Dr. William Kelly, author of Cancer Cure, he says, and I quote him, alkaline water has become the most important advancement in health care since Sir Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin.
Alkaline water will give you hydration, energize you, help neutralize free radicals, and detoxify your body. This is why you need the brand new pH2O Pure Filter Bottle from Seychelles. This bottle is the first of its kind to not only filter out contaminants, but also raise the pH of your drinking water to an alkaline level.
This filter removes aesthetics such as taste, odors, and chlorine, chemicals like volatile organic compounds, detergents, and pesticides, dissolved solids like aluminum, arsenic, and lead, radiological contaminants like radon-222, cesium-134, and 137, and it will alter the pH of your water up to 9.5. You can receive the brand new pH2O Pure Filtration Bottle for a donation of $100 or more to the ministry. You can receive 2 bottles for a donation of just $200 or more to the ministry, and you'll receive a 3rd pH2O filtration bottle as a special bonus.
Just to introduce the book, we're giving it to those who get the pH bottles. The only pH bottle of this kind, I don't know of any in the world, but if you order the bottle, you get a free book. If you order 2 bottles, you get a 3rd bottle free, and you get a free book, okay? This book, if you want to know the other side, I read this book last night, and it is amazing.
I have a feeling this might be the biggest book we've ever put out.
Oh, I hope so.
It's already ranked at #1 a month before it would even be in print.
I believe in a supernatural God.
Yeah.
And if you're believing in a rapture, that is as supernatural as it gets.
Mm-hmm. By the way, the world is probably getting ready to believe again, because if the stuff that we've written about in here happens, if those gates open as they're prophesied to do in the Bible,
what?
And the things that it says are going to come up out of the earth, and it says men's hearts are going to fail them for fear for seeing those things that are coming upon the earth. So the church may not believe in the supernatural anymore, but they're going to.
I think what they're doing is proving our worldview, whether they accept it or not.
But if you order the bottle, you get a free book. If you order 2 bottles, you get a 3rd bottle free, and you get a free book, okay?
Drink high pH water anywhere, anytime with the new pH2O filtration bottle. Call 1-888-988-1588 or write to Jim Baker at P.O. Box 7330, Branson, Missouri 65615. You can also donate online at jimbakershow.com. Thank you for your continued support that helps keep us broadcasting around the world.
It's kind of a miracle. We're not expanding to what they call the Branson Mill. The owner wants to help our ministry.
Right.
In this big, huge crafts mall, I think you'd call it. I don't know what you call it. Do you know, Lori? How would you describe it?
That's a good way of putting it.
It has everything, and it's right at the door. In fact, they just literally tore walls out and gave us at the entrance as you walk in to
right
the
when
left.
you walk in.
They gave us, and they want us to be able to let people come and pick up our 20-year shelf life food there, and you want to pay shipping. Just come and pick it up and take it home with you if you want to do that.
Awesome. It's right off of 248 on Gretna Road. So right when you're coming down that road, you'll see the big mill outside, right on Gretna.
Does it have an address?
3300 Gretna Road.
Oh, I love 3s. That's Trinity. 2 Trinities, 003300 Gretna Road, which is Route 248.
Right.
So go by and you'll have fun shopping there anyway, because it's a wild place to shop.